With practice and qualifying done from the ROVAL, Brian and I are to get you set for the drivers that need to be in your DraftKings lineups, the ones that you should be fading, and all of it in between. We'll also look at the updated outright betting odds, see where there's value. Is there value? Are we just betting SVG and logging off? All of that and more on today's Angle of Pursuit podcast.
Ross Chastain used the wall all the way around this racetrack.
Logano has been the class of the field.
Check out the big brain on Brad.
Yeah, I need to change my underwear.
Brian Twining, live from Las Vegas. How is the desert treating you, my friend?
It's going good so far. We were just chatting prior to jumping on here. My very minimal college football plays I've had for the day are undefeated, so making a little bit of buck there for tomorrow's absolute freaking disaster fest from what I'm expecting after watching this Xfinity race. And yeah, like I'm just excited to be here a week ahead of the Las Vegas race, which obviously I'm going to be attending from the media side of things, which I'll be trying to bring everybody multiple tweets and all that type of stuff from information I can gather from talking to the drivers and stuff. So make sure you go follow me there at Brian Twining, at Brian_Twining. And then of course the show. So yeah, I'm just looking forward to this weekend. I'm excited about the Cup cars hitting this track with everybody on track at the same time, actually battling for position with playoff positions on the line.
Yeah. We just the Xfinity race just ended. We saw the carnage nonsense. We'll see what the fallout is from that, but as we do always, we're here to talk about the DraftKings lineups in this show, and we'll break down the lineups. We'll talk about who we like, who we don't like, and we can also talk about what to do with this race, because it's a weird race with thoughts on how we want to approach it, who may or may not be staying out, who may or may not be going for stage points, who may or may not be racing for the win. It's gonna be a dilly of a pickle, as they say. So let me present my screen. We can run through some of the names. We can talk about.
And then I'll just say, as you're pulling the screen up, a lot of the strategy is going to be based on what happens post stage one, in my opinion, because I think it's fair. It's pretty easy to assume what guys are going to do during stage one or coming to the end of stage one. But after that, say what we saw during the Xfinity race, if playoff drivers wreck out and their days are done and they really don't stand a chance of gaining any more points, and now guys who previously needed to win can point their way in and vice versa, like things could go awry here this weekend. And so I was just telling Kyle prior to jumping in here, and I think the same goes for DFS. If you haven't already invested a lot of money on this race, I would probably say, although we were very excited to get away from Talladega, I would play it safe this week because I'm terrified of what we're going to see.
The super speedway being behind us and us being almost more terrified this week.
Exactly.
Really says a lot.
Yeah.
All right. So, but for betting purposes, I think that's fine. You kind of watch what happens in stage one. You have your bullets and you get ready to fire in some outrights. As far as DraftKings, though, we're gonna have to make some decisions ahead of the race. So we're gonna try and be fortune tellers. We're gonna try and figure it out, and then we'll go from there. Shane Van Gisbergen starting on the pole, 10-3. His outright price is outrageous. So if you grabbed some pre-practice and qualifying, good on you. You're smarter than the rest of us. Brian was smart enough to do that. I was stubborn, so we'll see where we end up. Kyle Larson starting 6th at 10-2. Dinger starting 3rd at 10K. Obviously, not a ton of laps to lead here, but there is potential that SVG is just that dude on Sunday and just runs and runs and runs and starts first, finishes first, runs a lot of fast laps, runs a lot of clean air, leads a lot of laps, and is absolutely the guy you need in order to even approach cash lines. So is it SVG? Not, and is he a clear step ahead of Larson and Dinger for you?
I think in terms of versus Larson and Dinger, yes, I think SVG is in a class of by himself. Now, the one thing I will say going into this race with Shane Van Gisbergen is at the previous road courses that we've been to, and even Chicago prior to him wrecking out, one thing we haven't really seen him do is lead the field for the vast majority of the day. The most of the races that we've seen from him at road courses, even when he won all these races in Xfinity, is he won those races at the end. So it's almost like he was saving. And so it'll be interesting to see if he wants to try to run away from the field early here and just maintain track position, which I think is going to be difficult because a guy like Tyler Reddick, who's in the next range of drivers, albeit probably on a different strategy just based on where he is in the playoffs, I think he was as fast, it maybe if not better than Shane was during practice, and he also has much more experience at the Roval in the Cup Series. So it'll be interesting to see how they play this. But Shane Van Gisbergen is just so good at road courses, Roval, street, whatever you want to freaking call him. He is in a class by himself, and so
Yeah.
I think you just start your lineup with him and then build it around that.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how many people get there. I think with Larson starting 6th and Dinger starting 3rd, maybe they do some mental math and convince themselves to have something that's not really a reality. But I'm curious to see what ownership projections kind of spit out, because I think he's really compelling.
Yeah. Well, and then I think too, like when you're looking at the Roval, they're doing, I think it's like just over 100 laps, or I forget how many laps it is. I haven't even, I was too busy watching Xfinity today. I think Shane, if he decides to lead the field, he could potentially just be Kyle Larson at Bristol all over again. And outside of him punting at the end of stages 1 and 2, he's probably leading, 80% of the laps here. And if you don't have him in your lineup, you're completely effed.
Yeah, I'm looking at like the 2023 Roval to get an idea, and it looks like so Dinger started 6th, finished 1st, had 17 fastest laps, 46 laps led, and was the best car on, was the driver who scored the most points. Behind there was Byron and Larson. Obviously, Larson started 36th in that race, finished 13th. So big movers and fast laps / laps led are going to be kind of your ticket to paradise, as they say. Tyler Reddick did start on the pole, finished 6th, only had 27 laps led. It was barely a top 10 scorer. So something to think about as we build lineups.
Yep. And that's what I was just going to say about Reddick as we transition into the 9K guys, is that he's basically in the same situation this year as he was last year, where stage points are the most paramount thing for him going into this race, with them barely over the cut line. I think it's like plus 14 to the bottom tier dudes. So
yeah,
he could potentially, if he jumps Van Gisbergen early, which I don't think Shane's going to give him much of a battle if that were the case, because he knows they're probably on differing strategies to begin with. And so Reddick could go out, lead the entire stage 1, and then he's pitting at the end of stage 1, and then has to get back with the squirrels. And, with the narrowed turns in, I think it's in going into 6 and then going to 7 with the new hairpin turn there. Like, who the hell knows what's going to happen? So it's going to be scary for anybody that has to give up track position at the end of stages. So Reddick's a little scary.
Yeah, I think it was Denny's podcast that was mentioning like that turn won't be that bad 90% of the time, but all the restarts is going to be an absolute cluster F. So in the 9K, we have Byron starting 10th, Elliott starting 7th. We mentioned Reddick, Christopher Buescher starting 29th at 9,100, and Christopher Bell starting 12th at 9K. Buescher, I think, is somebody, and we've seen this before. Last year, started 20th, ended up finishing 7th. We like him at road courses. Will probably be decently popular, but given where he's starting, given his price tag, I think he makes a ton of sense.
Chris Buescher, look, if there's any team in the field that you can completely ignore qualifying, it's RFK, especially at road courses, where Christopher Buescher, if you watched the show earlier in the week, I was mentioning he sucks at qualifying here at the Roval. I think his best qualifying effort is like right around 18th or something of that nature. And so to see him firing off 29th, no surprise whatsoever. Now, he's going to be incredibly popular in DFS, but he's probably going to be good because when I was watching lap times during practice, he wasn't fast firing off, but something that he's become elite at is just managing tire fall off and getting better as the day goes on. And I think we're going to see more of the same out of the 17.
Yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense. Do you have any interest in Byron Elliott and or Christopher Bell?
William Byron out of this group is my most popular post qualifying. I think because he's the only guy that's clinched into the next round, he can go one. He can either play for stage points, which his car was pretty damn fast in practice. And so I think he could be in a similar position that Christopher Bell was last year, where if he gets track position early, not only can he undercut the stage, but still get stage points at the end of stage one, and then possibly fight for the win later by changing strategy as the race goes on. I think his car is that good. He doesn't have to worry about points at all, whereas Elliott and Bell to a certain degree, he still does. He's pretty safe, but I mean, chaos can happen. And so, I'm a little less optimistic after what I saw out of JGR, which those cars absolutely sucked in practice and qualifying, way less speed than I expected to see them come with. So out of this group, the only guy outside of Buescher that I'm really excited about is Byron.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, I don't think his outright price, I mean, we'll look at the updated price, but I know before practice and qualifying, he was definitely not somebody that it was a little too short for me to get to, even given that he could just kind of be balls to the wall and go for it. But, yeah, I'm definitely interested in him. As you mentioned, he looked pretty good in practice. He's starting far enough back where if he's kind of that one of the, gets up to the top 3, leads some laps, has some fastest laps, does finish strong, I think he could be somebody that makes sense. Like last year, he started 14th, finished second, had 3 fastest laps, and was had the second most points behind Dinger. So I think something very similar could be in line for him. Let's talk 8Ks. Ross Chastain starting 16th, McDowell 21st, Tyrone Gibbs 19th, Kyle Busch 11th, Alex Bowman 17th, Martin Truex 30th. A lot of interesting names there. A lot of guys that we're interested in before practice and qualifying. All starting relatively far back, especially the Chastain, McDowell, Gibbs crew, and obviously Bowman's right there too. I guess, is there a name or two from this group that really stands out for you? Are they all compelling for different reasons? Like, where's your head at with this chunk?
Yeah, so I was extremely excited about Chastain coming into the week. Not so much post practice and qualifying, because he's not really a guy that we've seen when he doesn't qualify well or look great in practice come out and be much better than what we saw on Saturday. So, which is a complete opposite of what we had seen out of Chastain in past history, where he sucked in qualifying and then he's really good on Sundays. But this is a little bit of a different animal. And then Gibbs too. But on that note, I do think JGR is going to be much better than what we saw today. So I do think they'll be a little bit faster. But out of this group, I think the only guy that really piques my interest of somebody that could pop has got to be Kyle Busch. I mean, I talked about him on the earlier week show, but he showed plenty of speed in practice. He just missed out on advancing to the final round of qualifying. He even said in his post-qualifying presser in the media room, little video I saw on Twitter, he messed up a couple of corners during that. So, I mean, he was probably well in line of advancing. Yeah. And he has nothing to lose here. So he's going to be doing everything in his power to try to get up front for a race winning move at the end. And that's somebody that you want when you're trying to play tournament plays, is you want somebody that could potentially win, not play it safe. Somebody like Bowman and then Truex. Okay. They named the friggin' pond that's across the street from the track Martin Truex Pond. Do you think that he gives a shit about racing well here when he could literally be the first car retired and walk across the street and go fishing? You said it earlier in the week. Anybody that's still betting on this guy is essentially just donating to the books. I can't get with him anymore. So yeah, I think he's a fade for me, even with him starting 30th.
Brian's
Which
even
is
humble.
wild to say.
Yeah. It'll be stage 3. We'll be talking, and they'll have a camera shot of some guy over by the pond. Like, oh, is that Truex? No, that can't be Truex.
Yeah, you're gonna see a little tiny little motorboat with a guy standing on. It's got a little 19 painted on the side of the boat.
That'd be hilarious.
Yeah, that'd be great.
7K. Ryan Blaney 14th, Suarez 13th, Cindric 5th, Logano 4th, Hamlin 18th, Briscoe 25th. Not a lot to be desired from this range. It's all kind of gross. Denny is pretty terrible here. Briscoe is probably worse. Cindric would be, I guess, the name. But
but how do you trust Cindric when starting 5th?
You don't.
Yeah, you can't. The only way that he could go is down. I mean, do you really think that in a vacuum, Austin Cindric is going to beat a guy like, say, Kyle Larson, William Byron, SVG, AJ Allmendinger? No way. I can't see that.
He's not beating him on a vacuum, on a bike, on a race car, like any of those things.
Yeah, so like I think he could potentially have a good day, and if shit happens, like he could win the race, but I'm not taking that chance. Out of this group, I would say, despite him looking like absolute dog shit, Chase Briscoe starting 25th. I mean, they're going to have to throw everything at this car. And if you want to get different than everybody else, I think he's a good pivot because he's probably going to be less than 10% rostered. And they're going to do everything they can to just make up track position. And say we get a chaotic end of race situation like we saw today, and it was coming to the end of a full fuel run where the majority of the field pits for tires. Maybe he stays out, jumps to the front of the field, and winds up finishing like 8th or something like that. And you just made up 17 spots.
Remember what Chase Elliott did at Sonoma, where he just stayed out and tried to luck box it and ended up getting like 4th or 5th? He could totally
exactly.
play one of those.
Exactly. And I think that's a much more likely scenario for somebody like him than Austin Cindric winning the race.
I think that's a great call.
Looking much better in practice.
I think it's a great call. Brad Keselowski qualified in the top 10. Sure. Todd Gilliland,
road courses.
Noah Gragson, Bubba Wallace, Josh Berry, Justin Haley, Ricky Stenhouse, Carson Hocevar, Eric Jones.
Carson Hocevar, baby.
Really?
Yeah, I think Hocevar is going to be strong. Now he's brings a little bit of checkers or wreckers to the table, and with the narrowed track and turn 7 being introduced, I mean, he's probably one of the guys that's going to take somebody out or be taken out. But if you're playing in a tournament and you're doing something like Kyle and I do, we only enter a couple of lineups. You got to get different with your plays. So I think he makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. He's starting far enough. He's starting close enough where enough people will probably not be going there, but he's far enough back where he can score enough points. Josh Berry, Justin Haley.
Josh Berry looked like absolute shit. Let me also add. So Bubba Wallace started in a similar situation last year and was running inside the top 10 most of the day until Daniel Suarez took him and Austin Cindric out of the race. So Bubba, who's starting 9th, similar conversation to Cindric in terms of their possibilities of them actually losing spots as opposed to gaining. But I think Wallace is much more likely to maintain position just because of, I mean, when you look at them two together, I'd take Bubba almost any day over Austin Cindric at certain tracks. And Wallace actually looked very sporty at the Roval last year. And his teammate is quite possibly the best at the Roval at the moment in Tyler Reddick. And again, you're talking about Wallace, who's another guy who has nothing to lose here, who showed tremendous single, maybe like 2-lap speed. If we get a late race situation, maybe he takes 2 tires and just makes up the track position and then tries to run away or so, hope for calamity behind him. So I think Wallace is another good pivot play to get different.
He is 100 to 1. So Take that
So
for
what's
what?
interesting is I during the NASCAR betting preview show, I mentioned Bubba Wallace top 10 at, I think it was like plus 750 at Bovada at the time. And of course it got shot down because it wasn't good value, but it was definitely something that piqued my interest just from what I've seen from him recently at road courses where he's been much better than in years past, and just his evolution as a driver.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, Caesars has it at 350, so it's 750 sounds much better.
Well, I mean, that's
Um,
clearly long gone, but
yeah. 5K, Austin Dillon, Zane Smith, Corey LaJoy, Ryan Priest, John Hunter, Kaz Gralla, Harrison Burton, Daniel Hemrick, Josh Bilicki. Anything? Anyone? Even like,
RCR,
yeah,
Austin Dillon,
22nd
I think,
though.
yeah, but I mean, if he can get a top 10, like what if he sneaks a top 10? The dude is like, he habitually finishes 9th through 13th at certain tracks. And here he always finishes like in the mid teens. So you're looking at a floor play of, say he finishes 20th, you only gain 2 spots, but he's only 5,900.
Yeah.
And I'd much rather play that than say, like, okay, for instance, LaJoy, Priest, Nemechek, and then the last 3 guys, their cars looked like they were racing in cement. Like
Yeah, the
they're in the Fred
road
Flintstone vehicles.
courses with like the jabroni guys, they tend to stand out more and be a lot worse.
Yes.
Where if it's
Yeah,
like
and I
a
think,
oval, they can be better.
yeah, exactly. Because on the oval, I think you can make up for some deficiencies because the cars are a little bit closer together, and this is a little bit more of a driver's type track. And for
Yeah.
all of Austin Dillon's faults and for all the shit that we give him in the community, he's not a terrible Cup Series driver, and he's actually done pretty well here at the Roval in the past.
So what I'm hearing is a lot of balance builds, not getting too crazy on either end. So one of our lineups will be a stars and scrubs approach to see if we can't hit the nuts, but um, I think more balance sounds like the way to kind of develop your lineup. So I guess Brian, with that being said, let's build 3 lineups. Do you want to?
SVG.
Okay.
Yeah, we got to start with Van Gisbergen.
Okay. Um, I'm gonna put in Tyrone.
All right, all right. Yeah, as disappointed as I was in their practice because they did not look very good. I don't expect that to be the same because clearly teams make adjustments and all that stuff. And Gibbs has been too good at road courses not to
Yeah.
be able to recover from that. All right, let's. Man, this is going to be a tough week just based on strategy wise because there's going to be a lot of guys who are going stage points who luck into certain situations. Let's put Briscoe in here. I just got a hunch that.
Well, I was just looking at his stats. Not last year was pretty garbage, but the year before, he started 17th. He was in the top 10 after stage 1. He remained there after stage 2, and he finished 9th. So we get something similar, borderline top
And
10
they're going to be
finish.
throwing everything at the car overnight because he's the only SHR guy remaining in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And it's their last hurrah as a team. So,
Yeah. Albush. Austin
all
Dillon?
right. Okay. Yeah. Let's do the RCR guys. And then I think the next logical play for us.
That opens up basically
Oh,
anything.
okay. Never mind. I was going to say Busher because I think he's going
Yeah.
to make up a ton of spots here.
So what about if we kick Gibbs out of this lineup? Would you prefer a Reddick, Bell, Chastain, McDowell?
I mean, Reddick was so good.
Yeah.
But my worry is that they completely punt on trying to go for the win. The thing about not playing Reddick is I think you are forfeiting fastest laps because he's going to get some of those.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of what strategy is going to fall his way at
You can
the
also
end.
do like Suarez, Cindric. Look, yeah, I don't like any of those names.
Yeah, this is a tough week, man.
Real tough week.
Because okay, so somebody like Logano, this is something that you and I chatted about earlier in the week, and then I've been just thinking about this all week. He's in the unique situation as the first guy below the cut line that he can stage 1 go for stage points and then completely flip his strategy to go for the win if it requires it later in the day, or he thinks he needs to go for the win early and flip the stage. And then he is an amoeba this week, and you cannot predict what Joey's going to do.
What about we put Busher out and we put in Byron, and then we have Byron potentially even because if
I like that.
Yeah.
Because I think he's safer too, because he's going to be inside the top 10 all day.
Yeah. All right, I like that. We'll create another one.
And then you're gonna lead off this one.
Yep. And we're gonna start with Christopher Busher.
Oh, man.
We get an SVG all three. Don't feel
I was
like
just gonna say, like, I just don't see a world where he's not good.
But I think that tells me that we need to build at least one without him. Because if he is that good
Okay.
and he ends
right.
up being the guy and everybody piles in on him and we could cut ownership down.
Okay, Tyler Reddick then. This is completely opposite of what I want to do.
You know what
but
I'm thinking? Let's just X these 3 names out and start here and work our way down.
Okay. All right.
We want to do balance build. I think this is a great lineup for balance build.
Did we keep Gibbs in the previous lineup?
We did.
Okay.
We can go back to them. I'm good with that.
No, I don't want to do two Gibbs here.
So Bowman's interesting. Bush is interesting. I don't hate Briscoe.
I was just gonna say, so I think Blaney's an intriguing option as well because of where he sits in the current standings. He also has to kind of go for stage points and a decent finish. So I think you're probably going to get a top 10 out of him.
And he's always better at road courses than people give him credit for.
He just like at super speedways, he just winds up in somebody else's shit. And then of the back markers, I do think that. So I like Hocevar a lot, but I was going to say, so Kaz Grala, I know he's an ultimate squirrel, but he threw down some decent lap times. And then that opens up the possibility of everybody.
Let's take Hocevar out because then it gets us to like high 8, low 9s.
So what about Mick Driver? I know he's not good here, and I'm fading him in matchups because he has ultimate bad luck. But he's another guy too. Recently in the Gen 7 car at road courses, he's just gets to the front. Like last year, he lost his power steering, and he ran the remainder of the race, and he was still decent.
Let's just put Bowman in. Just like a top 10
I think we saw. Yeah,
last
but he was easily the worst HMS car today during practice.
Yeah, but that could have been figuring something out for Larson, Byron.
True. Good point.
And himself. We got 3. I mean, all 4 guys are still technically in the playoffs, so.
Yeah, and I heard something. They're looking to be the first team since 2016, I think it is, or 2017, to advance all 4 members into the next round, and it'd be the first time HMS actually does it into the round of 8. Actually,
If there's any team that you tell me one team gets 4 cars into the Final Four, HMS doing it would not shock me at all.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I guess JGR is similar, so I don't know.
yeah,
All
but
right,
with Gibbs, it's a little less likely.
fair. At least this year, maybe in a couple of
Yeah.
years. All right, we can put literally anyone in the lineup now. So, do we want to do a Larson lineup, and this could be our punt SVG lineup? Do we want to do like Byron or Elliott or someone else?
So I think Elliott was better than Larson, but like Reddick, so we're really getting frisky if we put the 2 guys that are plus 14 to the cut line in a lineup. Because unless they have absolute rocket ships, they're probably going to be finishing around, 6th to 10th, probably tops. Whereas a guy like Larson, he's in a similar situation to Christopher Bell, where they're safe enough right now where they could probably get stage points and then clinch and then flip the strategy to go for a win late.
Yeah. I mean, Larson's clearly the shortest price in terms of outrights. We could just go AJ too.
Let's do it.
I say what?
Let's do Dinger.
Okay. Let's create a lineup. So I think we put SVG, and I think we take another high price guy. That could be Reddick, that could be Dinger, that could be Larson in this case. And then I think we come down and get like
Let's do Larson with SVG here.
And then I'll put in Hosovar
Okay.
to balance out that Larson. Is there any other squirrels down here that you can consider yourself convince yourself will be decent?
decent. Oh man. I mean, they're not good.
No.
I mean, Zane Smith is not terrible, but
I guess let's build the rest of our lineup. Let's shoot for the moon. Let's go for high volume. I mean, we could just do Busher. And
yeah, but he's going to be extremely popular.
Yeah, but we don't have to get different at 7 spots. I think because by
that makes
spending
sense.
up, I think it makes sense. So I think if we do Busher, because my thought is, like that's only 6. I think these are 6K. I'm thinking like Elliott, and then no, what's the?
So it's like 93, I think, is the most.
So if we do Zane Smith, that gives us 85. Yeah.
Look, I think Kyle Busch is going to be strong.
Kyle F. and Busch. And that gets us 6K. So Eric Jones, Austin Dillon. I mean, we could do the Dillon thing again. It's terrifying, but
I think we got to pivot off of Dillon. Yeah. I can't have 2 lineups with
Ryan Preece.
So those SHR cars were bad.
Bad.
I don't know what type of adjustments they're going to be able to make on the other 3 guys when all of their resources are going towards the 14.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm if I can find matchups versus everybody but Briscoe, I'm going to bet him.
So Zane train, call it a day.
Yeah, let's do Smith.
Okay. Done, and done. I'm going to enter these now while I'm thinking about it. Let's go to the lobby. And then we will flip over. We'll look at outright odds, and then we will log off so I can go watch Ohio State. Hopefully, dismantle Oregon, but we'll see.
As they should, because softy Oregon will get thumped.
Brian said it, not me. Don't get mad at me, folks.
Hey, Michigan should have beaten Washington too, but they didn't. They don't have a quarterback. So the Pac-12 schools are not faring very well in the Big Ten so far.
Yeah, Iowa of all people put up 40 on them today.
Yeah, exactly.
Where's the 3 max? Here it is. Enter 9. Yes. Cool. Got those in. All right. As I mentioned, odds are nutty. SVG's
That's
plus
so
250. Good luck. Good on those that got it. Dinger is 6. Larson is 8. Reddick is 8. Byron is 10. Bell is 12. Elliott is 12. Any of those worth a nibble?
So I do think that Kyle Larson and Byron are the only two outside of the top two guys that I would even consider of the favorites, because like Dinger at 6, there's no value there,
Yeah.
especially when he's going up against his teammate SVG, which you're not betting plus 250. Do not bet that.
What about plus 200, like our favorite offshore?
Oh yeah, that's just ridiculous. There, you cannot bet a Cup Series race plus 200 unless his name is Kyle Larson and it's Bristol.
Kyle Larson being 8-1 is really compelling.
The one thing though is, like, when have you seen Kyle Larson beat the road course ringers?
Never.
I mean, he won Sonoma this year, but I don't. That's much different than the Roval. And I would say Byron was better than Larson in practice, and by a pretty good amount, in my opinion, as well.
And he floated too. He was like 7, and now he's all the way to 10, which.
Yeah. So of these guys, I would bet Byron before anybody else. Reddick, I'm not biting on because we don't know his strategy. Now, say again, let me repeat what I said at the opening here. If we get an early caution with 2 of the current playoff guys and they get knocked out of the race for some absurd reason, and Reddick and Chase Elliott both jump 2 more spots in safeness, then I think you can look at firing on them live, because you're probably going to get decent odds during the race if it's post stage 1 after they pit. But as of now, I can't bet either one on an outright because they just need to play it safe. They need stage points, and that's it.
Yeah. It sure feels like the lines haven't really moved in terms of relativity with like 80% of the field. It's just because SVG is so short, they had to adjust everyone else up, because I'm looking at some of the numbers and everybody kind of got a little bit of a tap up. Kyle Busch.
I was just gonna say, I'm actually surprised they didn't just take the field and do. We talked about this. Did the Max Verstappen just do like race winner minus SVG, because if this race goes without craziness, like, he's gonna win. He's gonna throttle the field. It's gonna be a multiple second victory, and it's gonna be boring as shit.
Kyle Busch back to the well.
So, I got it at 30 here at Superbook when I arrived. It reopened at 30. I'm probably going to play a little bit more of that just because KFB doesn't not give a flying F about anything right now. So he would not be afraid to send it and move anybody.
I got it at 22.
That's still decent.
And now he's 28.
It's because of SVG looking like he did in practice and qualifying.
Yeah. Suarez, Gibbs 25?
No, yeah. So I got a bad number on Gibbs. He was 14 and 16, so that's crap. I'll say I'm happy I didn't jump on the Chastain train with Kyle here.
I told you to join me. You just completely ignored it. Huh?
I have a Chastain placement. I have a top 10. So
at least I have Chevy to win at minus 140. I feel sort of okay about that.
Yeah, but like, what was interesting about the pre-flop odds is Colleague at plus 325. I like jokingly thought about this and then actually talked about it, but I feel like that's probably the best bet of the week that you could have gotten, is just taking them as a team to win. Because when you look at the odds, the 2 favorites are SVG and Dinger. And I mean,
it's by a sizable margin.
Yeah, it's by a sizable margin, and so you have two guys at close to 3.5 to win the race, and when the favorite is plus 250.
Yeah. Don't bet Logano at 14.
No.
Don't bet Cindric at 14. Kyle Busch, I don't know. Like, is there any of these? Like Blaney 35, Bowman 40.
Busher at 40.
Busher at 40, I think, is a good
Look,
bet.
we went through this monotony a couple of weeks ago, and he was 33. Remember that?
Yeah.
So that's going to be a bet. I'm gonna add that to my personal card for sure. I don't know if I'm going to bet. Well, yeah, let's add it.
Yeah.
That feels egregious.
I'm guessing 40 is the best number, probably.
Yeah, we'll just say if we find it longer, we'll change it. But yeah, that seems good.
Oops. Yeah.
But yeah, I will say, so as far as the markets go this week, if you don't have a lot invested already, it's probably going to be a lighter race than you expected. With us especially being the cutoff race, and with us going to Vegas.
And I think if you have a couple bullets left, you still want to fire on people, maybe hold those back until you see what stage 1 plays out.
Yes, because that's going to tell the story of how the race is going to continue.
Yeah. So
yeah,
I
there's
think
not a lot of placements posted either.
KFB is fine. Busher is fine. I mean, if you want to get crazy, Bubba, but like, I don't love much.
Look, I don't hate the Bubba price. His car was good in the short run.
Want to put $5 on it, see what happens. Fine. I think if I'm stepping to the window with no bets at this point, I think the Byron 10, the KFB 25, and the Busher 40, I think, are my 3 favorites.
Yeah, and then obviously if they get reposted, if you can somehow find like winning team and it's colleague 2 to 1, 2.5 to 1,
yeah, my guess is that you don't get that. Yeah, it's plus 170, which honestly I think is fine.
So interestingly enough, though, I would probably rather still take the Chevy price, which at Caesars is minus 200 to win the race. So if you miss the minus 140, that sucks. But at $2 to win $1, I still think that's value because you're literally getting Shane Van Gisbergen, AJ Allmendinger, Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch, Ross Chastain, Daniel Suarez, all of them going for a win and nothing more.
And that way, if they have wild hairpin turns or something stupid and they get taken out earlier than they should. And I was like, these top Chevy numbers, maybe there's some inflation there, but like, even if SVG and Dinger both get taken out, then it's like Larson or Byron, and it's like, is that really that good of a deal? Just take them to win the race? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Well, especially when you see that they're the favorites. So essentially, you're betting, if it's top Chevy, you're basically betting them to win.
This is the bet of the century of the week, Brian. We got that at 750.
Yeah, I got it at 10 when I got to Vegas. So
I didn't add it to my card, mother trucker.
No, you did. We can put it on there. Kyle and I both chatted about this. I text him. When the hell did I text you? That was like Wednesday night or Thursday. I'm like, hey, Joey, top Ford. Yeah. So we can put that on there.
Busher 8-1 top Ford. I feel like we did this at the last road course. We bet Logano at an absurd price. He qualified well. And then I bet Busher and someone else. And then Busher came home with top Ford because he won the race. I didn't bet him to win, but.
Yeah. Look, I don't mind going back to the well with the Busher prices.
8-1 seems decent.
He's too good at road courses to avoid. Now, I will say that I think his best market post practice and qualifying is probably that top 10 number at plus 220. This is a guy that's top 10 in like every single road
Yeah.
course that we've had in the Gen 7 car the last 2+ years. So
That
if you can get, that's a good number.
that sounds like one of Brian's write-ups over at our Substack, aoppodcast.substack.com. Once again, aoppodcast.substack.com. We write up all the races. You get a link in your email inbox every race day with our thoughts. We include DraftKings targets. We include favorite bets. We include links to episodes. We include our full betting card and more. And it's completely free. So I highly recommend checking that out, because Brian and I will be finishing that up and sending that out late tonight, early tomorrow morning. So that will be in your email inbox when you wake up in the morning. Or I guess if you're watching this and you're getting this and you haven't subscribed yet, go check it out now because it's live. We'll have our bets. We'll have more DraftKings thoughts. We'll have all of that good stuff. I'm going to go watch Ohio State beat Oregon. Brian's going to go enjoy the city that is Sin. We're going to watch the race tomorrow. We're going to try and not get over our skis, maybe cash a few bets in the process and see what we can do. For Brian Twining, I'm Kyle Robert. Enjoy the race, and we'll talk to you next time.